With rumors flying around that Cam Newton could miss the 2019 season, is Christian McCaffrey a buy or a sell in 2019? What is going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back. Next episode, Fantasy Headliners. And today I'm joined once again by Mr. Ryan O'Connell. And today we're going to be talking about Christian McCaffrey. If Cam Newton sits, is McCaffrey a buy or a sell for fantasy football here in 2019? Ryan, how we doing?
Doing very well, Jake. Thanks for having me back again. Now, for me, Christian McCaffrey is one of the premier talents in the NFL, and I don't want to take anything away from him when I say this. If Cam Newton is not healthy, he's an absolute must-sell for me. In fact, I might consider selling him right now. His current ADP is top 3 overall currently, and frankly, that's just too high for me. If Cam's not playing in 2019, and this is obviously his second shoulder surgery on his throwing arm, it's definitely for cause for concern. I'm pumping the brakes on him, and I'm probably moving on. How about you, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because a lot of people are going to say, man, if Cam is out, a lot of the pressure is going to shift towards Christian McCaffrey, and I get that argument. But on the other hand, there's a very few running backs in the NFL that see that workhorse volume, that are going to go out there and get those huge numbers of receptions and targets and handoffs out the backfield. There's not very many guys out there. Now, beginning of the season last year, none of us really believed that Christian McCaffrey was capable of going out there and putting up those ridiculous numbers. He ended with 219 rush attempts for 1,098 yards and ended up with 107 receptions for 867 yards. That offense is going to struggle in Carolina with or without Cam Newton as of this point here in February. There's not a whole lot of offensive weapons there. What do they really have outside of Christian McCaffrey? DJ Moore. That's about it. There's not a whole lot else there going on. And if they have a replacement quarterback, which a name we'll get into here in a second, comes in there who's not familiar with the offense, doesn't have that chemistry with the wide receivers on the roster, I can see a lot more volume going towards Christian McCaffrey and seeing similar numbers in the passing game, at least, if nothing else. There's not a whole lot of competition there for Christian McCaffrey right now. He is a super high draft pick, and you hit it right there with the ADP at 3, which is coming off a fantasy football calculator. If you haven't checked them out before, their link is down in the description. Make sure you check out that website. But he's definitely one of the top running backs in fantasy football. He will be again this year with or without Cam, just based off of volume. I'm going to still buy Christian McCaffrey, but I'm hoping that he falls outside of that top 3 or 4 or 5 possibly before draft season comes here in July, August.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if Cam's out, obviously his value is going to drop, so we could definitely get him at a cheaper option, which, at that point I might be on the buying side of it. But where he currently stands with his ADP, I'm going to have to sell. I mean, one of the things that Cam Newton brings is that he has that mobility, so you always have to pay attention to him, or he's likely to take off for a 50-yard scamper. Now, when defense have to not only lock in on the quarterback and the running back, it gives them more ability to run the ball, and obviously you got that chemistry with Cam, so those passes and all those dink and dunks are a little more fluid and easier to move the ball down the field. You bring in an unknown asset, unless it's someone like maybe Colin Kaepernick, that could definitely fit the build. If you bring him in, QB who has those kind of talents, those abilities, then McCaffrey's value stays high for me, but otherwise I'm going to have to sell on him.
Yeah, and we're not going to glaze over the fact that you just said the word scamper on the internet, but I mean, that's all right. It's all good, and I liked it. It's going to be the word of the day here. But then you also mentioned Colin Kaepernick, and that's kind of who I was referring to earlier. There's already, stories out there in the news that he is a possible option in Carolina if Cam Newton is out. Now, that is a whole different level of a ball game and a whole different show about the whole Colin Kaepernick issue, but if that were to happen and Kaepernick were to get his chance in Carolina, I agree with you that I don't think a whole lot changes. It looked like Cam wasn't 100% last year anyway. It looked like he was throwing like a T-Rex with short arms. I mean, it didn't look well. It just didn't look right to me. So is it going to get much worse with Colin Kaepernick, who's been out of football for a few years? Probably not. I still think that it helps the value of Christian McCaffrey because, like you mentioned, defenses have to still focus on Colin Kaepernick and his ability to spread the field and move and scramble on his own, or scamper, as you said. But it's something
word of the day.
Hashtag scamper, yes. It's something we need to pay attention to. It's not happened yet, so I don't want to give the people an outlook on Christian McCaffrey based on Colin Kaepernick as a fantasy quarterback right now because it just hasn't happened. That's something we need to pay attention to here. But yeah, you have the good points for selling them. I'm still buying as of right now. We do have time, which is great. We still have a few months. If you're in a dynasty startup or something, though, I'm not exactly scared away of Christian McCaffrey right now, just based off of the amount of touches and volume he's going to see for years to come, because the Carolina Panthers are basically in rebuild mode-ish, if that's kind of what you want to call it. There's not a whole lot going on for them on the offensive side of the football. They need some more pieces. Christian McCaffrey is going to be the cornerstone of that offense for years to come, with or without Cam, in my opinion. After that, we mentioned the Colin Kaepernick thing. If they don't go Colin Kaepernick and they end up getting
Joe Flacco,
no, because Flacco's going to be in Denver, thankfully. What if they got like a Case Keenum? He's somebody who may be available now. What if they got Blake Bortles? Nobody wants Blake Bortles anyway. Don't worry about that. But there's a chance that they get somebody who's maybe not as well known and somebody that the defenses can put a lot of pressure on. If that happens, if they get somebody in there and the quarterback play struggles, I think it's going to start to hurt McCaffrey a little bit. So it really is dependent on the quarterback. Who's going to be behind center, under center, however you want to put them behind the center, whatever it is. There's things we need to pay attention to. But yeah, outside of that, do you have any other concerns about Christian McCaffrey?
No, you really hit the nail on the head. I mean, from a usage standpoint, it's going to be through the roof this year. You have no weapons on that offense, and there's definitely a QB carousel going on. Flacco to Denver. Where's Keenum going to go? Kaepernick, is he coming back to the NFL? What about Mr. Big Foles? He might be an option.
Maybe there's options. I think that's the main thing right there. As you said, there's options out there. Do they go with somebody that they're going to have to pay a little bit more money, or they just try to find a stopgap because there's a chance that Cam comes back? That's what we need to pay attention to this offseason. But yes, as of right now, Ryan is selling, and I'm buying.
Definitely selling.
And I'm definitely buying because I like to buy things. I have a spending problem. But that's a different story also. But hey, that's our take here on Christian McCaffrey, something we need to pay attention to here in the offseason. Really appreciate the support. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing here to the channel. Got tons of videos coming up here in the offseason, so make sure you check them out. And like I mentioned earlier, go check out fantasyfootballcalculator.com. Lots of great pre-draft information out there for you to check out. We greatly appreciate your support. Go find us there on Twitter. Our handles are on the page, and we will talk to you guys later. Thanks. Have a good one.